guys, welcome to my channel. This is Ivan. Today we'll be sculpting Godzilla. For the sculpt we'll be using Smooth On's Freeform Sculpt. Part A and part B. It's a 1:1 ratio mix, easy to use. Then we'll also be using some air dry clay. I'm using this brand, affordable, cheap, easy to get. Then my favorite sculpting tools, and I also created my own custom scale creator, or scale as I like to call it. Then some wire, not armature wire, and then some aluminium foil. Then I'm drawing out how big I want the Godzilla, planning the details, where the arms go, the legs, the bends, the scales, all those things. I normally end up deriving from the plan, but this is a guideline. Then after I've kind of figured out the drawing, then I do the armature, as the fancies like to call it, just to build its skeleton. And I secure it, check measurements, make double sure, mark some things which in the end guess didn't help anyone. And yes, figuring out where I want it to stand, adding some aluminium foil to thicken it up, also saves you clay, and also lets you control how quickly clay dries. I normally do it in layers. Here you'll see me adding clay. I make it an open, flatten a little bit so that I can wrap it around the now covered wire, and I do it bit by bit until I'm satisfied with the thickness, not too much that you can't add detail. Then we thicken it up a bit, adding slowly but surely, covering the feet to get the basic shape of it. Then yes, after that's dried, you will have a thin piece, very skinny Godzilla, which nobody will be scared of. Then you slowly add more clay. Well, that's my method. And building it up to make it look more bulky as we all get to know it. Except there's this one movie in the early 2000s, I guess, where he looked more like a velociraptor than the depiction of Godzilla through the years. Take note that when I do add details and things, I didn't use one type of Godzilla. I used a bunch of different versions of Godzilla and combined those. Gave a little bit homage to the old one, the new one. Then I tried to add some details to this very dry clay. Well, not completely dry, but very close to being dried out. And I do correct that. I tried on the other arm, the other leg. The other leg was a little bit wetter. Then it dried up a bit, and I was like, let's add some scales in the back to get our proportions right. When I added these scales, it went quite easily. And I added details on the scales to make it a bit easier once you start adding the second and the third row, the two rows subsiding this middle one. This is where it got tricky to add a little points, but I managed to an extent. Then the arms broke off. Such fun. I fixed that by drilling a hole in the sculpture, then adding new wire there, very loosey fit. I wasn't going to break up a whole sculpture just to make arms fit, but this I believed would be more secure, and it turned out it is. Because of the smooth on epoxy clay, it's very soft in the beginning, so you can see the weight of the wire keeps pulling it down. All I did was wait and let it dry a little bit better, and then I could control it better. Then I started adding scales, forgot about my scale tool, then remembered about it again and added that. Then I scratched some details on his arms, and I made a bunch of extra scales off camera to make it easier to add the in-between scales. Here's a bunch of scales already added, as you can see at the bottom, but you can never have enough scales. Then I started sticking those dried up epoxy scales and stuck them on with epoxy clay. and smooth it out. Didn't add detail on all the scales. We'll discover that later. Then I started adding the face, building it up. I do this layer by layer as it makes it easier to control, and the epoxy clay is soft. If you add too much volume, it tends on drooping, especially if it's not a flat sculpture, a freestanding sculpture. Added some details, some bends where I thought it would be. Looks like a tiny lizard's head at the moment without eyes. There I add some eye sockets, or where I thought it would be. Build it up, let it dry, then started thickening the sculpture up. Made the forehead bigger as it was too tiny, too sleek, and it started to look like Charmander from Pokemon, his head. And as time went, I tried to thicken the upper jaw along with the forehead, then added some cheeks, and I continued a little bit making the bottom jaw off camera, and it worked out quite fine. Was nervous on this part that it was going to fall off. It didn't. And I also thickened it up, added some now when it's done, I'm adding a base coat. White base coat makes it easier to spot where you need to paint what. And yes, after I did that, I mixed some different colors of gray, painted it as Godzilla, then added some colors inside the mouth, which was hard. Then tried to do scales individually. Then I tried with a sponge. That didn't work out well. In the end, I did the dry brush method, layer after layer. Did his pedicure and then added some extra detail. And now time for the reveal. Enjoy. Thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe and share. Cheers.